Welcome back to the show, everybody. I'm Gina.
And I'm Ivo.
And I'm already laughing because Ivo, we had to take another take, and Ivo was like, I'm just excited.
I'm just excited to be here. It's just, start with the fuckery. Why not?
No, you're excited to drink.
I am.
Yeah, that's what it is. It's already been a long week.
It's been a long day. How about that?
It definitely has. Happy Friday.
Happy Friday.
We are drinking just straight ass tequila because, we trying to watch the waist and shit.
And thank you for introducing that.
Yeah.
I really appreciate that.
But you could say what type of tequila it is because I'm not the greatest at pronouncing.
This is an
Spanish
añejo,
words.
which has lately been my favorite.
What does that translate to?
Añejo, and it just means it's aged longer.
Okay.
It's like año is like year.
Yeah.
Like añejo, it would be like
a very long
really
year.
Like really aged.
Oh, okay. Good to know. Because, I be on my Duolingo.
Yeah, it's just the way that they age it, I guess. That's what's called añejo. And you can always tell an añejo by its distinct gold, color. It's either reposado or añejo. And then so the añejo is I think the reposado is aged 2 years and the añejo is aged 5 years.
Oh, wow. They age them in barrels like they do whiskey?
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. And then they even have some ones that are like extra añejo. But that's a
lot of money.
That's when you get into the bread right there.
Yeah, I hear that. But let's cheers.
Yes, let's cheers. Right? That settled in nicely. It's getting there.
It's getting there.
That's the whole point, though. It's supposed to,
Yes.
it's just supposed to smooth its way right into it. And I was just gonna say what we're talking about is letting the tequila sit and breathe a bit in some ice and balancing out.
Talking about getting there.
Uh-oh. Where are we going with this?
No, I'm just saying, talking about getting there. I heard something recently, and it obviously ties into our topic for tonight, which is the perils of surviving marriage. And the reason why I say getting there reminds me of something is we heard a lady speak somewhere on social media where she says, getting to being married is a race. Everybody's racing to get married, right? It's but once you get married, that's the real marathon, when somebody sprints to get married, I think the way that the lady said it was when you watch people, everything is a sprint, dating and then getting married, it's a sprint. And she was like, have you ever seen anyone after a sprint? They look great. They're like, yeah, I fucking killed it.
Yeah.
And she's like, have you ever seen anyone after a marathon?
Yeah.
She was like, they don't even know what the fuck they are.
Yeah. Well, I think what she was saying is that when people get together, they usually a lot of people rush in to get married.
Yeah.
And then it's like, oh, when are you getting married? And there's a lot of talk about marriage and things like that. And so she was describing that process as a sprint,
Yeah.
And she was saying, but then the real race is the marathon, and which is the actual marriage. And she was like, you ever look at a sprinter? Man, they're just at the end of that race, they're just all just fit and everything like that. And she goes, yeah. And she goes, but have you ever seen a marathon runner? She goes, at the end of that race.
That's what I just said. Yeah, they don't even know who the fuck they are. They're in outer space.
Yeah, and they're like this. They're just super thin.
They look disheveled.
They just can't. So yeah, that was pretty funny.
That actually hit really close to home because I ran track for quite some time, and I sprinted and I ran long distance, and I can tell you it is definitely a totally different feeling. So our last couple of conversations were heavy.
Yes,
so we decided that we would keep it a little lighter today and, just kind of talk about something that I feel like Ivo and I know a lot about, which is surviving marriage.
Yeah.
We have been married. It's going to be 12 years this year. We got married in 2010, but we have been together for 16 years. Actually, I'm sorry. I think it'll be 17 years this year. Sorry, doing the math wrong. 17 years this year and 12 years married. So I feel like we definitely have the ability to talk about surviving marriage, especially because, marriage is obviously something that a lot of people don't survive. Obviously, like the statistics are like, at this point, I feel like it's 50-50.
Right? I think, yeah, I think that's what
like
I, that's what-
50% of
that's
the
what I
people
heard,
stay
50-50.
married and 50% of the people get divorced. But then out of that 50% of the people that stay married, I wonder how long they stay married for. Because, you know, when I tell people that you and I have been married for more than a decade, I will say that a lot of them are pretty surprised. They're like, wow, y'all been married for 10 years, now 12.
Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah. And they're like, how do you do it? And I'm like, oh man, that's like a gift you got to unwrap. Like, it's not just like it's not just like a 1, 2, 3 thing,
Yeah, it's definitely not. It's something that you have to like develop an acquired taste for,
Correct.
your partner. But the funny thing is that throughout our relationship, I remember when we hit the 5-year mark, and we were talking about like, wow, we 5 years, and I was just like telling myself that, it really wasn't going to be anything significant to me until we hit the 10-year mark.
Yeah.
And it's just funny to hear people say like, oh my God, 10 years. And I'm just like, in my mind, I'm like, wow, 10 years, like we've reached 10 years. Now what comes after to me is like, oh my God, wow,
Yeah, we in that fucking marathon right now.
We're in the marathon, yeah. The sprint ended a long time ago.
Yeah, long times ago. And we hit the 10 years in the heat of the pandemic.
Yes, we did.
So, but we still had a nice little private ceremony. We renewed our vows in our backyard.
Mm-hmm.
And some gracious friends lent us some flowers from their yard, and we made it work. We made it work, and honestly, we honestly had a great time. So when it comes to surviving marriage, something that immediately comes to mind for me is a piece of advice that we received when we were about to get married. We went to the post office, you and I, to get stamps. And for our wedding invitations, and I was like, oh, I want some pretty stamps, the ones with like, I don't know, like signifying that
I think we got the wedding ring stamps.
Yeah, we did, that said love on it or something like that. I actually think I still have a few of them. Anyway, so the lady at the window that was selling us the stamps, she was like, y'all getting married? And we were like, yeah. She was like, can I give you some advice? And we were like, hell yeah, because we don't know shit about shit, right? Because at that time, like, really, maybe only like one or two of our friends were married.
Right. But we were together for a while though.
Yeah, we were actually, except for one friend of yours, we were together longer than a lot of the friends that had gotten married.
Yeah.
So
I think we were 5 years together before we got married.
Yes.
Yeah.
So what I will say is that we did have a family member of mine that, was a big resource when it came to, advice to marriage and, like kind of like a blueprint, of how you want to go about things. But so this lady at the post office was like, yeah, I want to give you some advice. And we were like, yeah, sure, hit us with it. And she was like, listen, to sum it up, she was like, don't tell nobody your business, between you and your husband. Y'all going through something, you keep it to yourselves.
Which ended up being great advice.
It was, because honestly, what's that saying? Misery loves company.
Well, I used to I would put my business out in the street real quick at the beginning. So it ended up being great advice for me.
Yeah, because I was the opposite.
Yeah, you were the not tell nobody your business type of person.
Yeah.
And I'm like, no, we can hash this out right here, right now. I don't care who's around.
Yeah. And I was just like, nah, fam, we're not doing that. We're not talking about this in front of people. We are not like, I'm not running and telling my friends what's going on. I just felt like the difficulties that we might have experienced in our marriage or relationship at that point, we were going to figure it out amongst just you and I with no other input from any outside influences. So like, we took that advice and we fucking ran with it. And I want to say we ran with it for like, I don't know, like a good 5 years. And something started to happen with me. I started to crack a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And what I mean by that is there were times when you and I would have arguments or disagreements. I needed to talk to somebody. I needed to be able to, just like express my frustration and get some advice. But I was very reluctant because I felt like if I shared the things that we were going through that weren't, considered like blissful, then, people would potentially look down upon our relationship.
Yeah.
And then I was essentially inviting unwanted, advice from outside people. But what I learned is it's who you tell your problems to. You have to have what I would consider like a trusted circle. Friends or family that are, invested in your relationship, who love you too as husband and wife and want to see you thrive. Those are the people that you can share these difficulties with. And I found those people, and I feel so lucky to have found those people, because I think without them, I'd be fucked up in the game right now. Like, I need to pick up the phone sometimes. Literally, me and one of my very best friends, we have a joke where I call her and I say, all right, you need to tell me if I'm being a bitch. And she's like, bitch, what's going on? And like, then I'll run down the scenario, and she will, because she loves you. And she will hit me with the, yo, you bugging out right now.
You know what's funny is that as quick as I used to be, because I'm not like this anymore. I've definitely changed my ways, but as quick as I used to be, willing to put my business out on the street, right? When it came to our problems, things that like issues that we were going through, I was very private about those things.
Yeah.
I never really felt the need to go and try to talk it out with one of my friends or resolve it or get a second opinion. I was very good at just kind of hashing it out within myself. What I was missing was that tweak that I needed to like keep our issues behind closed doors when they arose.
Yeah.
So that was an adjustment that I can say benefit me in the long run.
And for because I feel like you're talking right now, and like you're being very like coded right now.
Well,
what Ivo was trying to say is that when Ivo and I first started dating, he was a loose cannon.
Yeah, it was.
And if we got into arguments, let's say we were at a club together, because we did a lot of that in our younger days, right? And we went out partying, and we had a disagreement in the environment that we were at that current time.
We're gonna argue. I'm gonna argue it out right there.
Yeah, Ivo was going to go ape shit right then and there, and I was not about that.
Yeah.
I was just like, oh, you want to go ape shit?
Yeah.
See you later.
Yeah, you would rather wait till we got somewhere in private and talk about it, and I never really understood the benefit of that until later on in our relationship, and it's very productive. So for all you people out there who are hot-headed and run off out the mouth, take it from somebody who used to be like that. There's a lot more resolution that can be had when you're dating someone who's not like that, and there's a lot more understanding and connecting that can be done when you bring yourself to a level where you're eye to eye in communicating and resolving the situations. It was definitely key to our longevity that I was able to kind of like turn that down a bit. So for any of you that are out there kind of struggling with that little piece of advice, hopefully it'll help you out.
Yeah, I had to recognize that you did not need any fuel to your fire.
Nope.
I literally had to like snuff your shit out. And a lot of the times that meant me just walking away and just leaving you where you stood and circling back around to it later. But a lot of the times, if it was something where you were the person that was like not happy about whatever the situation was, if you had an issue, for whatever it was, I left the ball in your court. I was like, okay, so he's the one that's pissed off about something and he's not willing to talk it out in a manner that is going to seek a resolution.
Mm-hmm.
Then he needs to come to me and figure out how he wants to talk this out. But we're not going to do it like this because we're not going to get anywhere, fighting in the street. But you have come a long, long way.
Thank you. Thank you.
I actually think that you sometimes are even more level-headed than I am now.
In certain situations. Like I can't take all the credit for that because I got a lot of it from you. You know?
That was just me. Those are some of my survival skills.
Yeah.
I was like, you don't know me. I used to fight in the street.
Yeah, well, that was the other thing I was going to get to. So like, I don't want people to either also be mistaken to think that, I used to just, be on this rah, and you just would kind of like be there not saying nothing. There came a point where you had enough.
Yeah.
And you let me know.
I was like, oh, okay.
And I found out that there was a whole nother side of her
Yeah.
that she was keeping locked away in a box, and
Mhm.
for a good reason too.
You know what that reminds me of? I was just listening to Rihanna today. She was like, you don't know I'm a fucking savage.
Yeah.
Like, fuck your white horse and carriage. Like, I was really just like, you don't know me.
You were like Bruce Banner with like the green, like the Incredible Hulk used to be going like, "Argh!" Like when we argue, I could just see the green coming out of you.
I'm like, you don't want to make me angry.
She's like, stop screaming.
Yeah.
I'm joking.
No, yo,
but that's kind of what it was like.
Real
Yeah.
talk. That's what it felt like. I really had to like keep those feelings inside, locked up.
Yeah. I mean, listen, you were smart enough to know when not to add fuel to fire.
Yeah.
You know, and you were smart enough to know how to pick and choose your battles. And you were smart enough to know that not to engage in something that was not engageable, which was me at the time.
Yeah.
You just could not engage with me at those moments because I was just emotionally.
You were unstable.
You're definitely emotionally unstable at that time.
But that, it's funny because that comes from like my being street savvy.
Mm-hmm.
I've watched a lot of situations get out of hand really quick in the street environment. Things going from people exchanging words to fighting to gun. So I've watched things go from 0 to 60, and I learned some of the best ways to de-escalate, and a lot of times that just means walking away. But so like what I was saying is that like I found my people, I found my village of like the people that I could confide in that will help me kind of see things through. And then you and I at one time also went to therapy, which was another great thing that we embarked upon. We reached a point in our relationship where like no talking was getting us anywhere. It was like we needed a third party to kind of, be another voice in our disagreements, because the disagreements were so, how can I put this? They were so in a way where I wasn't going to budge and you weren't going to budge. There was nothing that I was going to say that was going to change your mind. We needed a different influence.
Yeah. And I feel like that we were both in a place at that time where we were putting more focus on the negative situations going on in our lives, rather than keeping a good balance of the two. It's important that and healthy in a relationship that you not only resolve acknowledge each other for your strengths, but also at the same time simultaneously resolve the negative things going on in the relationship, but never lose too much focus from one or the other, because especially the negative parts, because if you spend a lot of time in a relationship focusing on the negative things, it's just unhealthy all around. And I think that we were kind of more on one side of our relationship than the other. We were doing a lot of head bunting, and so counseling therapy. Therapy was definitely helpful at that time.
I so agree with what you just said. That is so valid in the sense that we were definitely focusing a lot on the negative, and I feel so blessed for us to have gone through it when we went through it, because it happened like right before the pandemic, and then we were locked in the house with each other for like 6 months. Could you imagine us have not gone through that experience and then being like in the same space, having to like not having had resolved a lot of those problems that were like surfacing?
I used to think about that a lot. While we were in lockdown, I used to stop for a moment and think about the people that were in households in tight spaces and potentially in tense situations where it just happened to happen in the midst of the pandemic, and then now they're locked in a confined space with this tension going on between them. And I don't know why. I mean, and I did a lot more thinking of a lot of like people, unfortunate people in that time, and I don't even know why. It's like it just popped up because you brought it up, but I just remembered how much thinking I did about like that, things like that. And it was kind of good that we went through what we went through, because once we went into lockdown, we were kind of out of that space, that negative space that we were in.
Well, I think it has a lot to do with the fact that while we were in lockdown, you and I reflected upon where we had started in our relationship, and we we like said to ourselves, could you imagine if we were where we were a decade ago, and maybe even more than that, and lockdown happened then?
Yeah.
It'd have been a really
It'd have been
fucked up
tough, yeah,
it'd
for
have been
sure.
it'd have been a really fucked up situation. So I think you and I were realizing how blessed we were to be in the situation that we were during lockdown. So like that was you just reflecting upon people that were potentially in the situation that you and I had, you know, some 15 years ago.
Yeah.
And I'll elaborate a little bit, but when Ivo and I first started dating, like the second time around, I always say second because him and I dated briefly in our early 20s, and then we re-met again 5 years later. So when we dated for the second time, you know, he was still living at home with his parents, and I was a single mom with 2 kids living in a basement apartment. And Ivo then came and lived with me.
You were living in a 2-bedroom.
Yes. And I converted the living room into
A third bedroom.
into a third bedroom.
Third bedroom / living room.
Yes, because luckily it was a basement apartment that was part of a building that a lot of the apartments were like what they considered like rail houses. So it was just like long and narrow, and the living room / bedroom had a door, which was great. So it worked for me and my family at that time.
Definitely came a long way. And then you took me in.
Yes.
You took me in and made a little space for me in your kid's closet for my clothes. And
I didn't even have a closet.
Yeah, you didn't even have a closet. And then you shared your futon with me.
Yeah.
Which was interesting. And so it's been a long road. So just fast forward.
Yeah. Humble beginnings.
Humble beginnings. You know, we now have a beautiful house, 4-bedroom house, 2.5 bath, you know, kids and nice space. And, you know, it's been quite a road. So yeah, when we went through the pandemic, I definitely took some time to reflect back on, you know, our humble beginnings. And even prior to that, some of them even more, you know, more humble situations in my life. And just, you know, felt thankful.
As you should.
Yeah.
Because I would say that Ivo and I have come a long way. And it's interesting that, you know, we talk about, you know, like the things that you and I survived together and the times that we went through with each other, and like how that's led up to this point. And I was saying that, like, you know, I have found my people and the people that I can trust and the people that I can confide in. But something that I've more recently noticed that I would say that I find it, I think the best word is like disheartening. I notice a lot of people on social media vocalizing the problems that they're going through with their significant other, and they're presenting these problems on social media. So, like, I'll give you an example of what I mean. Let's say one of the things I know that we talked about in the past was wives complaining about their husbands being incompetent. So that's just an example. Like I started to see that a lot on social, like, you know, women taking to, you know, either TikTok or Instagram where they're vocalizing how their husbands don't do XYZ. And then on the other hand, I see a lot of men talking about, you know, that they want their wives to look a certain way. They want their wives to be a certain way after, like, all of these things that I've noticed that people are taking to these social media platforms to complain about these issues that are going on in their marriage.
Do you feel like they're doing it for the views?
So
kind of like selling out, you know?
I mean, we can get into that, but what I was trying to say is that I think when I reflect back upon the advice that the lady at the post office gave us, is that don't tell anybody your business. That's what she meant. She meant don't be out there telling everybody and anybody who don't really give a fuck about your relationship. Because when you go out on social media and tell people your problems, you're gonna get fucking an influx of unsolicited advice from people that don't know you from rip.
Yeah, I mean, so not only that, but the other part of not telling people your business or keeping your personal issues that you have with your partner behind closed doors, the benefit in that is the image that you portray to everybody else. It's almost as if you don't have any problems.
Yeah.
Why? Because all your problems are resolved behind closed doors.
Mm-hmm.
You know, even if you're in a public place, and you taught me this, even if you're in a public place and there's an issue that happens, let's just say, I don't know, maybe we're in a public place and you did something I didn't like.
Mm-hmm.
Rather than address it right then and there, act like nothing happened, wait till we're in private, and then speak about it in private. So then, therefore, not only did we resolve an issue, we did it where nobody knew it even happened.
Yeah.
And then the next time we're out and about, we have now a better understanding of each other in public, and those things don't happen again.
Yeah.
So much has happened outside of the sight of so many people that in reality, it just makes you look better. But now, by all means, don't think that people, even the most happiest couple have arguments, you know? But the beauty about keeping them behind closed doors gives the illusion as if there aren't any, and you look like this amazing happy couple. But in reality, you are, because you've done all your understanding behind closed doors, and that's where the magic happens. You know, that's the takeaway from, you know, really practicing this, keeping your business off of social media and behind closed doors, which, you know, at the beginning I didn't really value and understand.
Yeah.
But now I do.
I think social media can be a great tool if you want to maybe share your story with people and say, hey, my husband and I, or my wife and I, or my husband, you know, whatever the dynamic is in your home. If you want to share how maybe you and your partner went through something, and you want to maybe give people an insight into your journey, but if you're out there bashing your partner, I don't see how that's going to be helpful to your relationship.
You know, unless that's your niche. Like, unless you have like a channel where that is like, you know, you're like on, you know, like Married with Children type of situation, you know, like there's I'm not going to say their name, but there is a couple on social media. They're very well known, and they have a lot of followers because of the relationship they have. And they, you know, they do a lot of arguing, and they bash each other, and, you know, and really bust each other down and make fun of each other.
Yeah, but I think that's more like satire. I don't think that they're being like, it's not real.
That's
like,
what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. So like, unless that's your thing, that's part of like your image that you're portraying, that's one thing. But if you're just doing it just to air your partner out, like with bad intentions.
But that's exactly what I'm saying.
Yeah,
these are the things that I'm seeing.
I'm sorry. I was just like, I wanted to just state that there is a situation where something like that is kind of acceptable if that is the show that's being put up.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah. I would see how that could be something that two people would choose to do if that's what they're presenting.
Yes,
if that's how they're using their platform. But like you said, if you're just jumping on social media to air out your partner, even if you've spoken with them and it really hasn't been resolved, I don't again see how putting your problems out to the world, to people who don't really know you, how that is going to be helpful to your relationship.
Very true.
So,
but I'm sure the social media will let us know.
Yeah. So I mean, listen,
do.
we're all fucking ears. But honestly, I read a lot of the comments. You know, I'm an avid comment reader, and a lot of the times the advice that people are getting is, you know, oh, fuck him or fuck her, leave them. She's not good enough for you. He's not good enough. They may be right, but that not necessarily is the best solution when you got kids involved.
Yeah.
You know, you've been married for a long time. You have your finances tied in. Like, it's just not that fucking cut and dry.
Do you ever think that maybe it's a way for someone who doesn't know how to manage their emotions to let they're using that as an outlet rather than doing something that maybe they used to do, which is something like something physical or maybe something violent where they break something, or, you know, they're destructive in a way by physically being destructive. You know, maybe that's just a way of them letting out that energy in a way where they're still being destructive, obviously, to their image and their relationship and to the image of the person that they're with, but not in a physical sense.
I mean, I think that's definitely plausible.
Not trying to justify it, but just trying to get a better understanding of even why something like this, you know,
I understand.
happens.
I think that that's plausible. But do I still think that that is going to benefit what the result is that they're trying to seek. No.
I mean, I think it makes them feel better to an extent. You know what I mean? Because they're letting that out.
Understood. So when you look up some of the key things to a successful marriage, to surviving a marriage, the number one thing is going to be communication.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And it's not talking to your phone. It's not talking to your device.
Mm-hmm.
That is not going to be the solution to the troubles that you may be experiencing in your marriage. So I know it's so easy just to say, oh yeah, fucking communicate. Okay, great. What the fuck does that mean to communicate? Because you and I spoke about this, and I said to you, I love to talk. You love to listen. But that does not mean that when we're having a disagreement, that's how things should work. Like I should just be running off at the mouth and you should just be sitting there listening to me. No, we have to figure out how we need to communicate with each other. And I think instead of maybe going to social media and, telling people what you're going through, maybe look into a way to better communicate with your partner. If therapy is not accessible to you, because I know it's not accessible to everybody because therapy can be costly, finding resources to try to understand how to better communicate with your partner. One of the first things that I think two people can do, or one person that's, wants to start this journey, is to figure out what your communication style is.
Yeah.
How you communicate. And then you can have you can have your spouse figure out what type of communicator they are. And then you two can figure out how it's best to speak to each other. And then the other thing that I think you could build on top of that is like understanding your spouse's love language. I think those two things together can really give you like a better understanding of how your partner wants things kind of delivered to them.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not saying that this shit is perfect, because my love language.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think my communication style, but that I'm assertive, and that is my communication style. I'm an assertive communicator.
Mm-hmm.
But the funny thing is that I know that you're an assertive communicator. We are both assertive when it comes to communication. So when you just say communicate, if we're both trying to be assertive in a conversation, are we going to get anywhere? No. So that is the beauty of communication. I need to figure out how, or you and I need to figure out how to tweak that shit. And I think you and I have figured that out. Like we said earlier.
Through trial and error.
Yeah. We said it earlier. I knew that there were times that I could not put fuel to your fire.
Mm-hmm.
And that was me taking my assertiveness and kind of putting it, like it was taking a back seat for a moment. Because I was like, this is not what's going to be helpful right now. So I think that is like such a great way to put yourself in a position to be a better communicator to your partner.
You know what the great part about that situation where you chose not to engage with me and then just let me do what I did was that at some point, once all of the alcohol burned off, and I'm not just talking about like alcohol drink, I'm just talking about the fire, the flame, everything that I was using to ignite that flame. Once it all fizzled out, I was left with like the wreckage of what it is that I had, that I just did. And I had the sobering thought of like, fuck, I got to clean this up. And then what would end up happening is that I would end up coming to you and being like, hey, I'm sorry. I was a fucking dick, and I'm ready to talk.
Yeah.
And then that's when you would get me.
Yeah. See a smile on my face?
You'd be sitting there like, mm-hmm. Now
I was like home sharpening my knife just in case he came at me sideways
you all
again.
Burnt out, right?
Yeah.
Now let's talk, And so eventually I learned that all that other shit was just the long road to the solution that we needed to get to. And I learned how to start taking the shortcut to where it was that we needed to get to.
I also want to make it very clear, though, that does not mean that you should let your partner be a doormat.
Right,
even though there were moments where I allowed that behavior to happen and then gave you the opportunity to circle back around.
Well, yeah, I always had to come and make it right.
Yeah. However, I didn't allow that to happen repeatedly. Like you said earlier, There was a point where I was like, hey, listen, this has happened X amount of times. I understand that you may find some insight later on, but this can't always be the way.
Right.
You have to understand that I'm taking who I am right now, my assertiveness, and I'm kind of buttoning that up for you at the moment. But you keep pushing me, you're gonna get the horns. You know what I mean? Like, that's what you like to say. Evil's like, you want the bull, you get the horns. And I think once I made it very apparent that I wasn't going to keep allowing you to behave that way towards me, even though you have been apologetic and even though you have said that you were going to try and do better, okay, you're trying, but I need it to be better.
Yeah.
And I would like to say that obviously, we moved on from that. You were like, okay, I get it. Like, I can't keep doing this. And I remember one time you and I had an argument and you were like, Gina, I just feel like sometimes things for you aren't good enough. And I go, you're right. They're never going to be good enough. I'm always going to push for more. Because I feel like if not that, then what? Like, should you just be in a relationship with your partner and just be stagnant?
No, absolutely not. The interesting thing is that, like, I had previous relationships where, arguing, aloud and, doing things the way that I was accustomed doing them, things got resolved in a chaotic way. They did.
Yeah.
What I ended up realizing was that they never got resolved that way with you. There was no resolution in that mixture of personalities. It just never went anywhere. And then I eventually came to realize that the resolution came afterwards. So if I had something to say to you, I needed to understand that it had to be said a certain way, in a certain manner, in order for us to be able to get to where we needed to get to, especially because we're in a marathon now. We're not sprinting. So, like, I had to realize that, things had to change. And the funny thing is that I think
I want you to scoot over a little bit for me.
Oh, okay. The real funny thing is I don't know if you like. Oh wow, that's gonna be all in the mic. The first argument that we had after we got married was really, really like the pivoting moment that I realized I can't fuck around. Like, I can't be like, there's no like getting into an argument and saying, I'll be back, or I'm fucking leaving, and disappear for 2 or 3 days. We're married, we live together now. Like, there was none of that, and that was very sobering for me. And I quickly changed my ways after that, because it was just...
Yeah, but I feel like even before we got married, you knew better.
No, I
don't mean that like, oh, like,
no,
pow, you knew better.
I did, but what I'm trying to tell you is, like, that was the day that I really hung it up.
You hung your jersey up?
I hung that jersey up. I was like, nah, this ain't gonna work no more. Like, this, like, what it is like, I used to always carry, like, that coat was always, like, it was about an arm's reach away all the time. Like, I felt like at any given time I could just reach over and put that coat on and I was back.
Listen, you know how many times I looked up 3-bedroom apartments? We argue up like, how much is a 3-bedroom apartment?
So, like, that was before we got married. But then
I still do that shit now.
Oh, well, nah, not me. After we got married, I was like, I looked over and I was like, yeah, we about to put this shit in storage, because it's over for this shit. Like, there's
no, that's actually a joke me and my friends have. We're like always looking up 3 bedrooms.
Always looking up 3 bedrooms. Fuck out of here.
They're like, how much is it? 2,400. All right, I think I could work this shit out.
Good luck.
Yeah, no, it's a joke of, it's kind of like I guess kind of like those old jokes that men used to have for women, like, oh, she's the old ball and chain and shit like that. That's a joke that me and my friends have, that, we be on Zillow for no fucking reason, seeing what's out in the market, just in case I gotta fucking get out of Dodge. But I always wonder, okay, how can I put this? When you see these things on social media, when people are out there and like, my husband or my wife and she's this or he's that, I kind of wonder how these things play out. Like, what, like, what satisfaction are these people really getting from doing these things?
Well, I mean that's kind of like goes back to what I was saying. I don't know if they're. I want to think that what they're getting is an outlet. You know what I mean? And a way to release their frustration. Not to say that that's the best way to do it. I mean, it's definitely not the best way to do it. But I guess to some people, you don't know what you don't know. If you don't know how to do better, then how can you do better? Because I think that once you know how to do better, you do better. I would like to think so. So for the people acting that way, and myself included, I used to act that way. I mean, I not to the sense where I was putting our business out on social media. Thankfully, social media wasn't even a thing back then too much, where I didn't even have. I don't even know what I would have did, like especially in my earlier years before us, right? I don't know. Like that's weird. I think that might have been an option for me because I used to be that toxic.
I feel like social media was very present when we first started.
Yeah, but I'm talking about posting
like
videos and stuff like that.
okay.
So like, I mean, yeah, people still post like, thoughts, like, oh, to all y'all out there, or like, like those little like meme-grams, like insignificant subliminal type of messages that you post, like something's going on in your life and it's about the person that you're with, but it's like, not really directly directed at them. There's those things going on, but what you're referring to is like people posting videos directly airing out their significant others.
Yeah.
And you're asking, what do they get out of that?
Well, no, that's not what I'm asking. What I'm asking is, like, what is the end result of that? Like, does that help them find a solution for the problems that they're experiencing?
I think the solution at the point is just to let out the pain. I think
okay.
I can
definitely empathize with that.
I think it's a cry for help in a way. You know what I mean?
But who are you crying to?
Obviously they're just putting it out in the ether because they don't have anyone directly to go to. So it's more so like not only trying to let out the pain, but also trying to hurt the person that hurt them by exposing them. Because you just don't know any better.
Okay.
That's like kind of it's that eye for an eye thing. You know what I mean?
I totally understand that.
And that's just one way to do it. You know what I mean? Like
Ivo, honestly, that makes a lot of sense. I can tell you why I struggle like wrapping my brain around it, because what you're saying to me makes so much sense. You know me and the way that my brain functions, and we talked about it. I am not the type of woman that like I openly share the things that I'm going through. That's actually like I'm a work in progress when it comes to that. We actually just had our daughter's birthday a couple weeks ago, and a friend of mine was here, and I kept touching her head, and I kept like, showing her affection, and she was just like, she was in admiration of it, but she made a comment because she knew that wasn't something that I typically do. And I told her, I said, that's a work in progress for me. Like, those are things that I'm actively working on, showing affection to friends and family, speaking about, things that I may be going through, that are like real things, or voicing my concern about things in the world, just things like that. Like, I just don't necessarily just talk to anybody about them.
Yeah.
So when I see other people out in the world doing that, I'm so confused by it, because I've never found any like solace in just randomly talking to like anybody. And it's not just anybody, because when you're putting on social media, you're like talking to everybody. It's not just anybody, it's everybody.
Well, that's the elephant in the rider. That's because you've been living your life on top of an elephant.
Yeah, I mean, for sure.
For sure.
Yeah, everybody other than like my real close circle of friends everybody that knows me very well and that they are in my close circle, they know the writer. But the rest of the people only know the elephant.
They get to know the elephant.
Yeah.
So that creates a situation where you don't have the you're never presented with the opportunity to fully engage with someone in that way.
Yeah.
or to freely engage with someone that way, or to be as carefree as to engage with someone in that way, because you're always at a distance.
And for anyone that doesn't know what you and I are talking about, we are making a reference to a book called The Happiness Hypothesis by Jonathan Haidt that I read a while back, but I've referenced that book quite often. I'm pretty proud of myself that I actually remember the author's name too. Funny enough, he's actually an author that Joe Rogan talks about often too, which I found kind of surprising. But you know, Joe Rogan reads a lot of shit, and actually just recently found out that he reads anybody that he's gonna have on his show, anyone that he's interviewing, if they have a book, he reads it. And if they have multiple books, he like reads multiple books.
Oh yeah?
Yeah, which I found to be so surprising, because I was like, wow, that's a lot of information. Something's going on.
Yeah, I touched my notes for a second here, and the started doing something weird.
So yeah, so just wanted to let people know that that's the book that we were talking about, just in case you were interested and you're like, what the fuck do they mean by the elephant in the writer? It's actually the book is, I will say the book is not the easiest read. There were chapters and pages where I was just like, I need to read that again, because it's coming from like a psychologist, you know, educational standpoint, that maybe I don't understand all the terminologies and the ways that he would put things on paper, but I definitely got the gist of it, you know, when it came to it, and I definitely identified with the book, because I was just like, ooh, I do that a lot.
I love the terminology though, the elephant in the writer. So it's a great description of.
And the cover of the book, you'll see it's a person riding an elephant.
That's pretty cool.
But they're actually riding the elephant, I think, in water, which I thought was even more interesting. But anyway, I digress. But one of the things that I think you and I were also talking about, separate from social media, because if you're surviving marriage, these are the type of things that can become distractions in your marriage.
Yes, they can be.
And I think that you and I, we were kind of looking at it like, we felt like we were one of the generations that we were lucky enough where social media didn't have the biggest impact on us. So we're not as easily distracted by it.
Yeah, I think that what we started talking about, like, is love really necessary for marriage to work?
Oh,
right. That's how the conversation started. Like, is it really like a must in order for marriage to work? And the conclusion we came to was no.
Yeah.
No, it's
sadly,
not. Sadly,
no.
yes. Sadly, no. Love is not a must for marriage to work, right?
And this is our opinion.
Yes, it's solely our opinion. But as we sat there and thought about it, people fall out of love, and still maintain marriage for many reasons. One being kids. I mean, I'm sure that's a huge reason why people still remain married and remain under the same household, but yet fall out of love. And another reason would be, sometimes it's just a lot more complicated to get divorced. Things, when you have assets and you have so many things that have you tied together, it's just easier sometimes just to stay married.
I immediately think about that comedian that we saw again. She made another point that said the way that marriage is set up, for the most part, is it's till death do you part, right?
Yeah.
You were in it till you die.
Yep.
And she was like, that was great back, however many hundreds of years ago, when people die when they were fucking 30. So if you got married when you were 15, because, people were getting married really young, then you only had to be with this person for like a good 15 years, 20 years. Yeah. And nowadays, you and I, we got married, we were 30. I was 30, you were 32. So let's say you and I live to the average age of like 75. That's another 30 years from now. So that means that potentially you and I will be married for 40 plus years. That's a long time.
Yeah, that is a very long time.
When you ask me, do you need love to be in a marriage? I had to think about it like on that full spectrum. I think it's very plausible that someone could be in a marriage for, 20 plus years and just be like, I really did love this person at one time. We've done a lot of amazing things together. We raised children. We bought a home. We had cats and dogs. We went on trips, we went on vacation. But like now my life is in a different avenue.
Yeah.
And I'm not in love with this man or woman anymore. But they stay in it because they're still somewhere in that journey.
Mm-hmm.
And it's, I was almost sad to say it when you asked me,
Yeah, it's definitely it's like a hurtful thing to think about.
Mm-hmm.
But then we started kind of like to go into like, all right, thinking to myself. So there's obviously a lot of complications that can arise in a marriage that can bring it to the point where you fall out of love and whatever. And what I started to think about was some of the things that become a wedge between couples now in this generation that we didn't have to deal with.
Oh yeah, that's how the social media
and
thing
that's
tied
how
down.
we got into the whole social media aspect of it.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought that conversation took a pretty interesting turn.
Yeah, because some of the things that I looked up that could cause problems in a marriage, like things that happen on social media, like a husband liking other girls' pictures.
Yeah.
That type of shit. I was like, really? I was like, I really don't give a shit what pictures Ivo likes. Like, I could really give a shit. But we started our relationship for the most part with no social media. There was social media. There was Facebook. But like, were we really using it like that?
That was mi gente.
That is really dating us. But yes, Mi Gente was something that Ivo and I did both use. But Mi Gente wasn't like a social media platform where you went on there and you fucking aired your shit out. It was just kind of like pictures of you and your friends.
Yeah, I mean, it was the very early stages of social media.
To be honest, I feel like it was more of like a dating thing. Like you went on there to like check people out.
Yeah,
like
much.
You weren't on there to like figure out what somebody ate for lunch that day.
No, definitely
That's
not.
what Facebook became.
Yeah.
That amongst all of the large posts. Yeah, so that's how we got into that whole social media part where we were talking about the things that can become a wedge in someone's marriage in this day and age versus like when you and I had gotten married.
Yeah, I think that one of the things was like that.
Wait, real quick. That makes us sound real old. Like it sounds like back in our day.
Back in our day when we used to be on Mi Gente. What I found interesting was that the jealousy that can come up, that can be stirred up. Is that right correctly? That can be stirred up in a relationship, just by one person's attention to their social media feed. Mm-hmm. So what the experience that me and you might have gone through, in our early relationship, would be someone physically like getting too much of your attention, right? And me noticing that there's a little too much attention going on here. Not to say that happened between us, but that's how that would happen. And now what I had to imagine was multiplying that times however many friends you have on social media, and to know that for a moment each one of these people have your attention individually, and what that must feel like if you're the significant other of the person who's directing all of their attention to all of these different people, and you're having to compare yourself to all of these people. What that does to a person's self-conscious. And I was just blown away by that. I was just like, whoa, like that's intense.
I think what I read was a quote that said, a couple will face one partner being plugged into social media instead of being plugged into their marriage or their relationship. I can't say that I know anybody offhand in our circle that has ever said to me, this motherfucker be on TikTok or social media and he ignores me. It's definitely not a thing.
Well,
and I think that's how kind of like, I think I hate to say it, like, I feel like our generation maybe doesn't have like that intense focus.
So there's a term for it, actually. It's called fubbing.
Oh God! Last week we were talking. Last week we, what was the term? Oh, fawning.
Funny.
And now it's fubbing.
Now it's fubbing. So
oh shit!
So fubbing is snubbing your partner by being on the phone instead of interacting with them. And like, especially when you're in a private space, like, so when you're in bed or whatever, and you just kind of pull your phone out, and you're just like, when your partner is right there, right next to you. And this is not even just like, okay, you're sitting on the couch watching TV or you're out. I mean, you are in a personal space, and you just direct all of your attention to your phone when you have your partner laying right next to you.
Okay, real talk. You and I do this all the time. We get in bed and we both hop on our phone.
Yes, but we're not fubbing each other.
Okay.
That's what I'm saying.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah, sure.
That's what I was going to say. Do you feel like you and I have like an agreement where we know that we can do that with each other, but is it like unspoken, or do you feel like we've spoken about it?
I feel like we've been together long enough to know that when we're, there's points in our relationship where we don't have nothing to say to each other. Like, we're not talking all the time.
Yeah.
So we can be in each other's space and not have nothing to say to each other and be on our phones. And I feel like that we know that space amongst each other. But in this particular situation, I think this really is like an intentional type of, like, giving
them their partner the cold shoulder.
Yeah, giving them the cold shoulder. So like, imagine if phones didn't exist, right? And you were in a space with your partner, and what would you do? You probably pick up a book and just dive deep into a book. But
wait, so are you asking me if I wanted to ignore my partner, what would I do if I was in the same space as them?
Yeah. And you didn't want to like really be that drastic as to where you would leave the space, because that's kind of going too far. Like, it's not that serious. Okay. It's not that serious where you would leave.
Because I was immediately about to be
of course,
a bitch would just get up and leave.
So this is the thing. It's not that serious where you would leave, but you're not feeling the person.
Okay, I'm gonna tell you what I think me as a woman and many other women do when we are like wanting to ignore our partner, and maybe we're like a little disgruntled about something. We aggressively clean. We will get up and start doing shit around the house just to be away from you, and we will make sure that that like we are like purposely not paying attention to you, and that we may be a little annoyed at you. Like, so, but we'll do things kind of aggressive.
Yeah, that works in the daytime. So, but what if this is like at the end of the day, it's nighttime, we're winding down, we're about to jump into bed, but things are still tense between us. This is where the fubbing comes out.
Yeah, I think a book would or either that or TV.
Yeah, either that or TV.
It would be, I would have to place my attention in another area. Yeah. So whether it be a book, or I mean, I don't know how far back we're going. Maybe I'm putting on headphones. Maybe I'm listening to music. Maybe I'm just a way to basically drown you out. So it's book, music, TV. I do think that our people from our generations, people from our generation and earlier generations, they had ways to disconnect from their partner that wasn't necessarily their phone. I just think that the phone is easier, like, because it's a small device, it fits in the palm of your hand, where like, TV is not it's like farther away, it's not the same. A book is similar to a phone,
and it's very you can kind of like go into your own space on your phone without really distracting the person next to you or making them aware of exactly what's going on inside your mind.
I think the part that would really tick off the other spouse is your ability to view other people that they may look at like, he or she looks better than me, he or she has more than me.
Yeah, that
is something that can really bring about jealousy from
of course
an aspect that is in a device that is not even like really tangible.
Yeah. So I mean, the solution to that is obviously to create space for those type of things. Maybe have an agreement between the two of you, that when
Mhm.
things are tense, when things are, not to allow the other ones, or to not for you guys not to allow each other to ignore each other. So I'm going to use us for an example, right? If
Mhm.
we were laying in bed and you were fubbing me, right? I like using that word.
Okay.
You were fubbing me, right? I would take that as an opportunity to like not let you do that. I would take that as an opportunity to really hey, honey, come here, put the phone down, and break you away from this thing that you were about to use against me,
Mhm.
and not let you use it against me,
Mhm.
and really turn your energy towards me.
Mhm.
I think that's a great opportunity. That it's almost like the people that are getting fubbed, they're missing that opportunity in that moment to turn
Yeah.
that whole situation around. To let that person know, like, I want your attention. I don't want you to put your attention over there. I want your attention.
So I'm going to tell you, when you did that, you touched my hand, and I'm going to tell you how that made me feel. One of the things that I've always told you, because for a second I was like, damn, how did we talk about love and distractions? Like, why did those tie in? And I remember what was one of my thoughts. That's how I knew that I really loved you. When you and I would argue, or we would like come to a point where maybe we'd want to like ignore each other or like fub each other. And the moment you would turn to me and be like, hey, I want to talk, or you would touch me like that, immediately I'd be goo inside. Like, no matter how fucking angry I was at you, because you asked me, was love important? And I said to you, yes, I thought it was important when you wanted to have compassion and empathy towards your partner. Because when you love someone, those are the things that you will give to them. You will give them compassion. You will give them empathy in situations where maybe they're at fault for something. Maybe they've done something wrong to you. So I can't tell you how many times you and I have gotten into fucking heated arguments. I mean, like, where like I feel like fucking flames are shooting out of my ears, and we will walk away from it and we'll come back to it, because we go take a breather or whatever it is. And you'll do that, hey, come here, let me talk to you thing. I'm like,
Yeah, because people
I
listen,
turn into like a little baby.
The one thing I understood at that point in time is that even though you're not going anywhere,
Mm-hmm.
I'm allowing you to mentally take off.
Oh yeah, because I told you that's when I'm on Zillow looking for
exactly.
apartments.
You know what I'm saying? So like, for some of you who don't realize, you may think that, oh, she, we're not speaking, she's on her phone, and we're just gonna sit here and be mad, but she's not going anywhere. She's right here. Her mind just took off into deep space, and so the ability to like,
this is the way.
This is the way. So that's the moment where you want to say, hey, no. You're not going. So we're here. You're here with me.
Yeah.
Let's talk. I think that's a very grounding moment for that. And it has a lot of power in it. But
I would say that it has a lot of power when the people that are in that particular moment love each other, Ivo.
Yes, so I was about to get into that. Yeah,
I'm sorry. Am I jumping the gun?
No, it's all right. Because it is important. It is very important. And I kind of wanted to get into the importance of, the importance of love in a marriage. Like, so I want to talk about some of the things that in reality, like real talk, like why are some of these things so important?
Mm-hmm.
Why do you think love is important in a marriage?
Well, I said to you when you asked me this question originally that I thought love was important because when you love someone, that is going to give you the ability to be compassionate towards them.
Yes.
That is going to give you the ability to have empathy. That is going to give you the ability to accept an apology and forgive and forget and move on with the hopes of things being better. Because I feel like when you don't love someone, when situations come about where there is a disagreement, you're not going to give a fuck. You are going to be in it for yourself, and you're going to want the outcome to only benefit you because you are lacking the love for the other person. So that's why I feel like it's important. And that's why I feel like when you're in a in a marriage, you want there to be love.
Yeah. I mean, I definitely agree with what you're saying. And overall, it really establishes the health that exists between the two people. I mean, being actively trying to do things that engage love between two people really sets the level of health that exists between those two people. It creates a euphoric space where stress levels are lower, happiness is higher and through the roof. Sex is just amazing. And so for these few reasons, I mean, there's a basket of reasons. I mean more than a basket of reasons, but just for these few key reasons alone, it shows how important it is to have love in a marriage, and why it's so important to work on these things. It's not, you can't just pull it out of your pocket, and say, here's love, and it's something that has to be built and worked on, because if it was that easy, then everybody would have it.
Well, I always like to say to you, that's great, but how? Like, how do you do these things? So wait, I want to ask you a question.
Sure.
So you said, it's important to have love. So do you think there's a difference between being in love and having love?
Yes.
Okay. What do you think the difference is?
So being in love is that, in fact, I want to call it the infatuation space that you create with someone when you go from really liking that person to like being infatuated by them. It's like that transition between like and love, where you like go into, like you're going from one into the other, and like I like to call that's being in love.
Okay.
And that space to me is the difference of being in love and having love, because I feel like that a couple can go from being together, liking each other, being in love with each other, and then just loving each other.
Okay, so do you think to have a happy marriage you need to be in love?
Not entirely. No. Because it all depends on what someone's definition of happiness is.
Okay, I would agree. But I guess what I'm trying to understand is, if I ask you, is being in love a key to a happy marriage? And you say not necessarily, because it's based on what that couple determines happiness. I have heard many times one partner say, I am no longer in love with you, but I have love for you.
Right. And
they're willing to walk away from those situations. They're willing to say, I no longer want to be with you because I'm no longer in love with you.
And there's also the same thing to say for the opposite. There's people that say, I'm no longer in love with you, but I still love you, and I'm still willing to be with you because I love you. I mean, we're not in love anymore, but there is love there. And so that's what I say, like, and those people can go on to live happy, long marriages. They don't have to be, dancing around in butterflies all the time.
Okay.
They're very content with where they are, and that's why I said that. And that's not necessarily, but there are people that love to live in that fire, and need that ignition every once in a while.
I completely agree, and I think it's. I don't want to say that when you say that you're in love with someone. No, what I want to say is, when you say that you have love for someone, but you're not necessarily in love with them anymore, but you're still remaining in that relationship, I don't always consider that settling.
No.
Because it could still be very blissful for you, sure. Right? And then I feel like throughout that journey with that partner that you're choosing to stay with, you can then receive sparks.
I was just thinking that. I said, even though the relationship may come to a place where it's stagnant, but there's still love.
Yeah, or like you're a little content. Yes.
Yeah, the ability to reignite.
Happens.
It's there. It's always there. It's
Yeah.
it just takes us a little bit of effort.
I would say that I would say that I'm very much in love with you. However, there are moments where maybe I don't feel like deeply like I'm in love with this man, like how we were like in the beginning, because you know we went from that like to love stage. But there are times where like you and I do things, I don't know, there's so many I could think of, but that a spark happens where I'm just like, oh, I really love this.
Well, we were talking about
We
this.
have it happens a lot. That's why I say I'm in love with you, because I know it happens a lot. So that's how I know that it can happen. But I think what you and I were talking about is that you still have to work on those things, right? That's what you were gonna say.
Yeah, what I was gonna say is we found it so funny how in the beginning of a relationship, you know, all of those things that you do in a relationship where you're going out and you're dating and you're happy, and every time you see each other it's bliss and it's romantic, and they just all happen naturally, right? And then eventually, you know, two people, they settle into each other, and this thing that used to be so fluid and natural now all of a sudden becomes something that you have to work at doing. And that's the important part of keeping love alive in a marriage, or you know, one part of keeping love alive in a marriage is consistently working on never losing touch with those things that used to make your eyes, the things that you used to do that used to make her eyes light up, the things that you used to do that used to make her smile, you know, the things that you used to do that would make her laugh.
Yeah.
You know, you have to stay in touch with those things, and even though you may not do them as often as you used to, as long as you never stop doing them, you'll always have the ability to just light that fire whenever need to.
I can think about one moment very vividly. It was on my 40th birthday when we went to Dominican Republic and we were driving around that little golf cart. And you were just like, you were being like a fucking tourist guide. You were just like, and this is over there, and this, and then you were just so fucking excited,
yeah,
Ivo.
I was like a kid in a candy store. I mean,
and I just was like in such an awe of you that I was just like, man, I love this man, because you were just so excited to be there, even though it was my birthday. Because when it's my birthday, it's Ivo's birthday, right? But it was just your excitement for it, and it almost made me feel like when we first started dating and I got in your car for the first time and I was like looking around, I was like, oh my God, this car's so cool. Like, I was just in such awe of you because you were just being you, and you were just like in like, you were just in your,
I was in my element.
yeah,
you know,
you were in your element, and I remember just being like, man, I love this guy.
For our viewers and listeners who are probably not fully understanding what it is that we're talking about, for her 40th birthday, I took us to the Dominican Republic, to La Romana, and we stayed in Casa de Campo.
Yeah.
And so I spent 7 years of my life in La Romana, and one of my best friends, his mother was the entertainment director for Alto de Chabón, which is like a historic part of Casa de Campo. And that's a lot of like, you know, celebrity people that stay there and everything.
And for reference, if people don't know what Alto de Chabón is, say it again.
Alto de Chabón.
Alicia Keys did
Yes.
There's a video where she's playing the piano at the bottom of the stadium.
They have this like stadium, like an arena type,
and it's made out of stone.
Made out of stone, where she played.
Yeah.
And so I spent a lot of my childhood years, going to this resort called Casa de Campo, and inside Casa de Campo is Alto de Chabón, and we used to be, me and my best friend, we used to run around there like that was our backyard. I spent so many years just living in that place. And so when we went back, it was like all of a sudden I can show you this part of my life and take you through all of these memories that I had of me being a child, and it was so exciting. And I was literally like a little kid all over again.
That was one of those moments for me. I have
great.
many, but that one was very recent.
Yeah. So I mean, those are definitely things that are important. in keeping the love alive in a marriage. The compliments, those are always important. Don't ever let those, stray too far. Don't ever stop telling, even the small, you look great today. Those things are very important. You'd be surprised how deflated a partner could feel by not receiving those compliments from their significant other
I think
for a very long time.
I think especially a man saying those compliments
Yeah,
to
absolutely.
his wife, especially if she's had children.
Yeah.
And I that may sound a little shallow, but real talk, as a woman, when we have children, our body goes through a lot of changes. It's changes that sometimes are really shocking to us, because our body can do things that we never thought that they were gonna fucking do. And we go from looking one way to looking the complete opposite. So to know that your partner is still like in awe of you is something that we're gonna look for it. Like I mean, I'm not saying that every woman is like that. I don't want to generalize, but I'm speaking for myself and for a lot of women that I know. We definitely want our partners to still look at us like,
absolutely,
she's it,
Absolutely.
Or like now there's like a trend right now on TikTok, like, what is your, like, this is her picture, like, I want to know what picture you show people, like when you feeling like uchi gucci about me. I got these weird words like that, but
I know where that comes from.
Yeah,
too.
you know where that comes from, but that's what I'm trying to say. So I 1000% agree with you that is important, because
definitely want to keep the compliments flowing. Another thing that you want to keep going is those long conversations. You remember those long conversations that you used to have with that person, or maybe you pulled up, you were about to drop them off and you sat in the car for about another 45 minutes just talking, or maybe when we were younger, you'd be on the phone, and probably not even now too. It's just those moments where you're spending just this extended amount of time just speaking to one another. Okay? Those things, they die, they fade out in a relationship. When two people live together, or they're in each other's presence day in and day out, the space to have those conversations all of a sudden just fades away. So these are very important things, that you make this effort to set time apart just to talk. And it be a lengthy conversation. I think that's the one thing that we do a lot.
Yeah.
We have a lot of long conversations, and it's healthy. It's definitely healthy. I mean,
because I'm about that talking shit.
You a talker, and I'm a great listener.
He is.
I love to listen.
When you say that, I always just think about Ivo and I. One of the things that we love to do when we like make time for those kind of things, we love to go eat ramen. There's a place close to our home that is a BYOB, and if you don't know what that is, that's bring your own beer, but we bring wine, and we have a bottle of wine, and we eat bowls of ramen,
and we talk,
and we just fucking talk. Like, I want to say like 95% of the time I don't even bring my phone in. Like, I'll just leave it in the car. One of us has our phone because we have kids, but there's like a no phone rule. Like, you're not on your phone unless it's like a fucking emergency. But other than that, we are just having conversation, and I love to talk about everything and anything. So like, I think it's important to say that, make an effort to talk about things that are just not related to your home life. Like, don't go out to dinner, or don't go to a special event and talk about, how you want to remodel the kitchen or something like that. Talk about things that are going on in the world. Like, I don't know, do a fucking Google search. Like, just have conversation about a new song that you heard, just things that are really unrelated to like your everyday life at home, because that shit can be boring. Like, we could do that shit at home. Like, I want to talk about, I don't know, the last, DC movie that I saw, new movies that are coming out, and how I'm like, those are the type of conversations.
Creating a separate space for that is important, because it just makes it feel new and refreshing, And a lot of the things that I just mentioned cater to the male, right? When it comes to the compliments, and maybe engaging into the long conversations, and but
cater. You mean cater to the woman, but the male has to do them?
Yes, thank you. But one thing that is important that can go either way, and this is your strong suit, is coming up with new activities.
Oh yeah, I love to do that.
You know,
shit.
so like it's not always like falling on the man in the relationship to do all these things. You know, there's things that a woman can do in the relationship that kind of like keeps things new and interesting, and I mean that's your strong suit.
Yeah.
You know, and it's good to, that's another thing that it's also helpful in a relationship, is to be able to identify each other's strengths and each other's weaknesses and play off that. You know, and I think that you're great at that, you know, when it comes to coming up with new things for us to do and places for us to go. And I love every minute of it, because you're always coming up with all these interesting things for us to do.
Yeah, and I would say that you're always a good sport about whatever it is.
I'm
down. You're definitely always down.
Yeah.
And but that being said, like, just because I'm great at something doesn't mean that you don't also do those things. Like,
Right.
I do push for you to, like, I'm like, listen, this day's coming.
Mhm.
You know, it's let's say,
No,
for example, Valentine's Day is coming. I'm not gonna sit there and be like, I want to do, no, figure it out. You've been with me more than long enough to know what I like, so figure out something for us to do that is special, because I think every woman and man likes surprises. I will give a couple of tips though, because I feel like one of the things that I've noticed more recently on social media are all these fucking ads for things for people to buy each other for Valentine's Day. And I was kind of like taken back by what some of the items were, because I was like, if my husband came home and bought me a Pokemon card, because it was like a one of the ads that I saw was like, it was basically like fake Pokemons that were designed to like be his and hers, and it was a card that you gave your significant other as a gift. I was like, no. Unless you're taking me to like a comic book store and you're like telling me get any fucking pop you want, then that's a different conversation, because you know I'll be ready for that.
I know you love them things.
Yeah. So, but that's what I'm trying to say. Like, you have to understand what it is that your partner likes. Like, just don't be buying them some random shit. So a good piece of advice for any gentleman or woman out there, if you want to use social media to your advantage, go check out your partner's Pinterest account. Go check out all the things that they pin, or go on their Amazon account and see all the things that they have on their wish list or their save for later, and see how, if maybe you, if not get them that exact thing, something that's in that realm. Because if you really want to get something for them that like maybe they're not willing to get for themselves, because it's kind of like a wish, like you know, it's not really important, you know, but I'll maybe one day I'll get it, like if it's, you know, I'm celebrating something, I don't know. That is a perfect how to like figure that shit out.
Yeah. So that being said, I also think that in the simplest terms, laughing. I mean, just if you can just not lose touch with the things that you used to do to make your significant other smile, it's like an unlimited resource of a stress release that you can create between you and your partner. I mean, it's the best thing to ever do, you know. Like, I can't count the number of times that I just love to see you smile.
Yeah, you're really good at it.
So thank you. And I think that it's important. I try to always keep that as like a, you know, keep that in my back pocket, and I make sure that, you know, you'll always pull that out and do it as much as I can, because I know how much you love. Look at you. Your face right now.
And for people that are just listening to us, not watching up, I'm sitting here with the biggest smile on my face right now, because I'm going to tell you why Ivo's saying this to me. I'm going to tell you what I think about. I think about all, when I wake up in the morning, all the TikToks that you have sent me that are like of all the things that I love to laugh at, and all the things that I think are so fucking cute, and that like
constantly sending smiles your way.
you like know how to like get me at like my core, you know, like, and it's sometimes I get the best videos from you and I'm just like, I'm sending this shit to everybody.
Remember when I used to kill it with the memes?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I found out I figured out that you liked memes and I used to come up with the best memes to send you.
You still do.
I mean, not as much as I used to.
You sent one the other day that fucking took me off. So I'll never forget the first time that you sent one that fucking took me into outer space. So I remember I was leaving work with my very good friend Amanda and we were going somewhere. And then I was like, hey, you should come and like meet us at this place. Da, 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 da. And then you sent me that fucking SpongeBob meme where he gets in the ground and covers himself up. You were like, how about no? And I remember I looked at Amanda and I was like, did he just tell me to go fuck off in a meme?
You know what the best part about that meme
and
was
mind
that,
you,
right?
this is like 10 years ago.
Yeah, I think the best part about that meme was that I knew you in a way where I knew that you were trying to, you wanted me to come and meet you, right? And you were trying to be cute about it. But in reality, there was a hidden agenda on why you really wanted me to come and meet you.
There's always
right? And I saw it from a mile away and I was like, nope. And that shit blew your mind.
I literally showed my friend the phone and I was like, did he just tell me to go fuck off in a meme?
For those of you that don't know, SpongeBob digs a hole in the ground. He lies in it and then covers himself up. He like literally buries himself. Oh, he buries himself. And I was like, and I saw what you were doing from a mile away and I was like, nope.
Yeah. And honestly, since that day you have been on Meme Central. You
perfect memes.
Yeah, you definitely always find ways to make me laugh, and I think that is so important, and I think that this is a great way to end the show because we just
well, I have one more before we end the show.
Really?
Yes, one more.
Okay,
And this is a banger.
You got 2 minutes.
This is a banger, all right? And this is very important, okay? This is
very important. Write that down.
This is very important, okay? One thing that you have to understand about a relationship is that there will always be change, and be willing and ready to accept it, because that just means that you're willing to evolve with your partner and understand them. And there's nothing better than to be able to look at the person who you're with and know that they get you.
How they say it in Avatar? I see
you.
Right?
Yeah. So with that, I think that brings us to the end of our show.
Wrap it up, B.
Wrap that shit up. Was a wrap it up box.
Yeah. I really enjoyed this episode. I feel like our last couple of episodes, they were heavy. People were texting me and they were like, maybe you should give a disclaimer. Like trigger warning.
Yeah, well, it's drinks with a splash of controversy for a reason. I think we definitely took a deep dive into the controversial side. So now we're back to shit talk Fridays.
Yes, I want to thank everybody for joining us, whether you are listening or you are watching us. However you enjoy to consume our content, we greatly appreciate you. So go ahead and hit any button that's possible. So if you want to subscribe, you want to donate, you want to like, whatever tickles your fucking fancy,
leave a comment, talk to us.
Go ahead and do that shit. We would love to interact with you in any way possible. Yes,
it's very important that you do comment on any of the content that you see here, because a lot of times we'll read the comments and then we potentially will make it part of our next episode.
We find ways to work in what our audience is saying to us, because it obviously is something that people want to talk about, and so we love to talk. So you may just
be part of the next episode.
Yeah, right. But until next Friday, ladies and gentlemen, peace out.